Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Midweek Message. My name is Shola Ade, and I am the founder of MBS Complete. So we're going to jump right into the series that we are working on this month. That series is self-love, right? Self-love is a lifelong journey. If you have not seen the previous video from this series, go ahead and check that out. If you haven't seen the videos from any of our previous series, please, I would highly encourage you check those out. For a lot of the series, they go together, they tie into each other, and there are some tools and insights in there that could be helpful for many aspects of your life. So I would encourage you to go check those out. And for today, let's go ahead and grab a pen and paper. Let's get our journal, something to take notes with, or just sit back and listen, okay? So, like I said, for this month, we're focusing on self-love. And last week, we got into what is self-love, right? How do we even conceptualize that into words, into a sentence, right? Because it's so complex, it's so dynamic. And just in short, self-love is a process and an act of providing yourself with acceptance, with understanding, with compassion, recognition, and respect. Okay. Through those elements and many more, but let's just highlight those. Through those elements, we begin to cultivate that experience of self-love. And the more that we go through those processes of creating space for those elements, the more self-love becomes present in our life, right? And so the love that you have within continues to grow. And then you'd have much more love to give to others, right? Now, the reason why it's important to recognize that it's both a process and an act is that through that process, understand that it is ever changing, right? And so there may be something that lets you know, if I do all these things, I will get to point B, which is self-love, right? What happens though if something unexpected in your life occurs? What happens when you begin to question the love that you have for others and ultimately the love that you have for self, right? You're going to have to do things that will reflect the changes that have occurred based on that experience. And so it's a process that's ever changing, right? And the key word is that you will have to do something. You will have to take action in some way, shape, or form to again cultivate that. It's an active process. It's a process that requires effort from you, right? So the effort that you put in, depending on what's going on, depending on where you are in your journey of self-love, maybe you need a little bit more in one area compared to another, right? So again, it's dynamic. It's not static in the sense of, well, if I have 10% of self-compassion and I mix that with 80% of self-respect, and I have another 10% of self-understanding, that's all that I need for self-love. Maybe some days you need more self-compassion, and maybe other days you might need more self-respect. Maybe on different days and in a different environment, you need the self-recognition, right? So being able to be flexible with how you give yourself that love, what elements you put into that pot to create that love, and allowing yourself to flow with the process is so important. Okay, so that's the recap. Now, we left off with, how do I know that I'm loving myself? How do I know that I'm giving myself just enough? How do I know if I need more in one particular area? How will I know if I have an abundance of self-love? right? So how can you check in with those love meters? Now, as I said in numerous videos prior, how we experience life is different, right? We talked about it through our trauma series. We talked about it through burnout. How we show up and experience life is different because while we are all the same in regards to the fact that we are human beings having an experience, right? Or maybe you're a spiritual being, whatever it is, right? We all share that responsibility of experiencing life, right? How we experience life is what makes us unique. Those elements that make us who we are, that one person on this earth that cannot be copied, how we show up in that space is what makes us unique. And so, because we're all different in the sense of how things happen for us and how we view life and how we perceive, because that's different, because it's varied, it's also expected that it's different when we are looking at these indicators of self-love. So like I said, some people, they may only give themselves that self-acceptance and self-respect, and for whatever time period they are in their life, that works. Maybe we have somebody that's close to them, right? Maybe they grew up with that person, but maybe that person needs more self recognition and more self respect during that period in their life. So, how would those individuals know that they're giving themselves that self love if how they do it is different? Right. And so that goes in line with checking in with ourselves and recognizing what it is that we need, right? What it is that we need, and do we take the necessary steps to provide ourselves with that? Because again, our needs for the moment may be different. So paying attention to ourselves, self-attention, right? Paying attention to ourselves and saying, something feels off here. What's missing? Having the patience with ourselves to recognize that. And then also having the patience with ourselves in allowing the process and the action that is needed to become more aware, to become more clear, right? Maybe we say, okay, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling down, and then we just go about our day and essentially forget about ourselves. And then later on in the day, when you're like tired and drained and you're like, why am I feeling like this? Well, remember earlier that day, you recognized that you were tired. And maybe because of something that was going on, maybe you just didn't feel like you had the time. You allowed that feeling to continue without addressing it. Maybe instead of just taking a few deep breaths, maybe instead of going outside, taking a walk, maybe instead of talking with a peer about how you're feeling in that moment, you just kept going. And so that's why it's important to recognize what you need, what's going on, what's happening, and then also be willing to put in the effort to address whatever that need is. Now, there may be a disconnect, right? There may be an instance where you know what you need, yet you don't know how to give yourself that. That's something that is common, right? And it comes up. And we'll talk about that in some of our later videos, how to bridge those conflicts, that disconnection. We may know what we need, but how do we supply that? It's a completely it's another subject. It's another conversation because again, we're so dynamic as people that it's complex. right? So, but let's just say maybe now we'll touch on just a few of them. So so how do you know? Do you pay attention to what you need, and do you do what's necessary to provide yourself with those needs, right? Now, in regards to needs, let's think about another question that you can ask yourself. Do you take the time to care for yourself? That can start with your basic needs, right? Are you giving yourself enough time to sleep? Are you giving yourself enough time to rest? Are you giving yourselves the proper nourishment that is needed to keep yourself going? Are you also doing what is possible to create moments of safety and comfort? Maybe there's so much going on outside that safety and comfort only is achievable by going within and sitting with yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes. Do you take the time to give yourself those basic needs? Eat, sleep, rest, safety, right? And then to go beyond that, are you giving yourself maybe a little bit extra? If possible, are you grooming? Are you doing your hair? Are you getting your hair done? Are you getting haircuts? Maybe you got to get your monthly shave. Are you taking the time to do that? Are you making sure that the products that you use on your skin are helping you, right? These may be some extra things that we can give ourselves. Because it's one thing, right, to have soap and lotion. It's another thing to have soap and lotion that is tailored to our skin type, right? So are you paying attention to your skin type and allowing yourself to provide what it is that is nourishing to your body? Okay. Are you working out? Are you exercising? Maybe you don't go to a gym, but maybe you take the time to walk around the block. Maybe you do some jumping jacks in the hallway of your house. Maybe you do some stretching. Maybe you take the time to just move around and move your body. Are you getting massages? Are you massaging yourself? I mean, you can give yourself a massage. Are you allowing that time to soothe your body, to soothe your mind, your spirit? Those are some extra things. Maybe something else that's extra is reading, right? Are you taking the time to allow your mind to expand, to go on different adventures? Maybe you can't travel. Maybe the only way that your mind can expand and you can experience different things is through books. Are you allowing yourself that extra space? All these questions, right? And again, it depends on what you like. Maybe some people like to actually travel while others may enjoy staying in their house and reading. Maybe some people enjoy watching TV. Maybe some of us enjoy spending time with others, right? What do you need, and are you giving yourself that? Now, speaking of spending time with others, right? Maybe there are instances where you spend a lot of time with others and it doesn't fulfill you in any way. Maybe you feel pulled to do things for others, to show up in ways that maybe you don't have the capacity to do, but you do it anyway. Maybe you feel pulled to fulfill many roles. Are you setting boundaries? Are you letting people know what's going on with you? Again, that recognition. Are you recognizing where you are and paying attention and respecting that? By you respecting where you are in those moments, you are able to set boundaries that will allow your interactions with others to not feel like you're pulling and taking from yourself or taking from a pot that's empty. You're giving yourself that time to refuel, reboot, reset, right? This is a part of the process. All of these questions that I asked, for some, maybe they resonate more than others. Maybe the questions that I'm asking, they're making you think about some other questions that you could ask yourself to check in and see if whatever it is that's going on in your life, in your world, is it allowing you the time, the space, the effort, the energy to respect, to recognize, to hold space for compassion? Is it allowing you to love yourself? Does it feel like doing some of the things that you know would make you feel good? Does that make you feel selfish? I personally, I need to talk. I want to talk to whoever said that being selfish is something negative. It's a word. And we've been so conditioned to think that doing for ourselves and spending time with ourselves and giving ourselves more is selfish. Yet the irony is, if we don't do these things, how can we fully be who we are? How can we fully get to know who we are so that we can love ourselves and then ultimately get to that point of overflowing with love? So it's okay, just to use the word, it's okay to be selfish, right? Because doing for you, showing up for you, will have a greater impact on how you show up for others. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on in regards to how do you know is, how do you speak to yourself, right? We talked about the word selfish, right? If you find that you maybe are engaging in some negative self talk, if you're talking to yourself and you're talking down on yourself, your desires, the things that you want in life, pay attention to that. Pay attention to those moments where that record is looping over and over again, and all you hear are the things that are negative. And as you continue to hear that loop going, going, and going, eventually you begin to believe the things that other people have said about you, the things that you have now internalized. You begin to believe it, and then you feel guilty. You feel ashamed for loving yourself. So also pay attention to the self-talk. How do you speak to yourself? How do you judge yourself? Right? So we're going to continue to piece this apart, right? And as we go on this journey together, we're going to touch on what are some things that you can do? What are some more things? Like once you've been able to sit down and ask yourself these questions, how do you begin to engage in the process? How do you then take action? And what are some specific things that can be done to help undo what you've been taught so that you may learn what is best for you in this journey of self-love? Thank you all so much for showing up for yourself and for allowing yourself the space to grow and to learn. I look forward to seeing you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your week.